Every story is important, and every story needs to be heard by someone, whether an audience of 1 or 1 million. Our stories are valuable because we have no idea the ripple effect it can have on generations to come. So join me in listening to stories of how unlikely people became unexpectedly connected. Their stories reveal that we were never meant to face life alone. And in helping one another, we end up finding ourselves and our purpose. Welcome to Letters from the Chosens. Hi, and welcome to the show. I'm Naomi, and I am so excited today to have such an influential guest for the day. Trey is a musician, he's an incredible father, and he has a story that just inspires hope and it's just going to push people into their freedom. I'm so excited for us to get started and hear about his story. So, how you doing today, Trey?
I'm good, Naomi. Thanks for asking, and thanks for having me as well.
I'm so glad you're here, and I'm excited to get into your story. Now, you've had a recent bundle of joy come into the family.
I
Tell us
definitely
about
have.
that.
I just had my son at the end of March, and he's just amazing. I really can't complain about anything. He sleeps perfect. He's a perfect baby. He's so happy. He's like my own little physical reminder all the time that I could actually change and that like positivity can come at the end of all of this.
Oh, that's awesome. Congratulations to you both on your new child. That's so
Thanks.
exciting. And he's adorable.
So cute.
So cute. So I want to get into a little bit of how becoming a father, how has that changed your perspective on fatherhood or your childhood?
It's changed everything, honestly. I think, like on so many different levels. So my son now, Noah, he's my second son, but my first son actually ended up in the exact same life cycle that I did, even getting adopted and everything else. So when I get this chance now to like actually be a dad. Like I sometimes even if I get like a little frustrated or annoyed, like I get to remember that like I get to be what I needed my whole life, and like
Mhm.
being able to see him connect and be happy and excuse me, to just have it be like this is how life's supposed to be. I get to view life from like the proper aspect, but be the proper in the aspect instead of just having it be like, oh, I deserve this. It's like, oh, I get to be this.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. That it's a privilege to get
Yeah.
to do to be a dad.
Oh, definitely. I
Yeah.
squandered being a dad already. So, like, to get to do it right, I
Hmm.
had a lot of regrets. Like, a lot of my story, especially like in like my latter years after my son was born, was like fueled by regret of losing my son. Real, like,
Hmm.
the thought process all the time, like, I'm no better than the people I cursed. Like, uh, it would get deeper and deeper as it went on. But then to be like, oh, I get to be who you couldn't be
Hmm.
and who I couldn't be even. So like I get to see
Yeah.
my own growth. Every day I get to wake up and be a dad. It's just a reminder of how far I came.
Oh, I love that. And I can just tell the passion and the intentionality that you now go with it. So maybe it was, you didn't go about it the best way the first time, but yeah, as they say, the latter is better than the former. And it can
Hmm.
just hear that you are doing this with such intentionality and such excellence. And so I'm so excited. Now,
Well,
you
thank you.
mentioned that your son had been adopted just like you and went through the same cycles.
Hmm.
So can you tell us a little bit about your childhood and then we'll get into what happened with him?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I mean, well, definitely not exactly the same, but like to be honest with you, like with hindsight, even being 2020, like my son got a rougher end than I did with all of this, and like now I could explain that. So I was born at the end of 1992 to a 17-year-old single mother, and I was her second child, and she had zero resources.
Mhm.
So I actually it's funny that we're doing this again because I have a book at my mom's house that was kept by my foster parents. So I actually sat down with Courtney the other day and like I looked at my life before I got adopted again. And like there's
Mm,
pictures, there's notes. So like I got to refresh on my own story. So like I'm glad we
yeah.
get to do this again because like I was very jaded the first time around, but like I was able to read it from like new eyes as well. So I was instantly in foster care, like right out of the hospital. So like it was planned for me to be adopted. I was in a Jesus loving, a very Christian foster family, and I'm not exactly sure what was going on. Like maybe there was potential hopes for reunification at first because like my biological mother was like involved in like doctor's appointments, but I ended up um very early on in life they realized that I had a hole in my heart, a VSD for medical terms, and
Mm,
it's like a hole between the right and left chamber, and pretty much like I would not live long if they didn't fix it. So I ended up
yeah.
needing one heart surgery. I said I only had one. I actually had two heart surgeries. I forget that, I guess, or like it's never really mattered to me fully. Like I remember my mom would say, but I had one when I was 3 months old, and
Mhm.
then so I'm going to guess the circumstances and events that I was told about was for the second one at 6 months old, which it's just wild in itself. And like I
Yeah.
don't really know like what's true and what wasn't, and I never got every side to the story. So just basically things didn't go how they were supposed to. What seems like in like a reunification visit would be the only way
Hmm.
to make sense why I wasn't with my with my foster family. I'm sorry when I ended up needing a second emergency heart surgery, but just things happened, and then I ended up in foster care until I got adopted. But while I was in foster care, I had two major open heart surgeries, and then I got adopted. And one thing that I didn't realize, well, I knew, but like it didn't really resonate with me actually until Courtney said it, was that like since my birth, I've been protected by Jesus. Now, like Nancy
Amen.
Kolb, who was my foster mother, like with this book of pictures, like there's always prayers written in them, like Jesus, please be with Trey. Like, with
Wow.
my surgeries, actually, fun connecting fact. I think it's definitely amazing when I look at it that Peggy Kroger was one of my nurses when I had my open heart surgeries before I was adopted and before everything else, and then ends up being at the
Wow.
same church I grew up in, you know,
Wow.
and adopting their own in time. So like even that, like you know, I got goosebumps, but like that was like a connection because
Yeah.
I still have this one bear, and my girlfriend's daughter was like she pointed at one of the pictures with this bear and she's like that's upstairs, and like I always knew like Peggy gave me that bear, and then it's like oh my gosh,
Oh,
like as an adult it's like full connection. It's like you were there before I was adopted, you know.
yeah.
And like to me
Wow.
like they're like totems of the spirit at this point, you know, because like these when I had these surgeries I was being prayed over by people that didn't know me but chose to take me in, you know, like it's I view things a lot differently, and like it's also like a recent change in the view, but like
Mhm.
my first year of like finding my place to land with a forever family, I was still being guarded, but I between two open heart surgeries and failures, I'm going to assume to jump through hoops that were needed, I was adopted, where I grew up with the family I was adopted by.
Mm, that's amazing. And that aspect I didn't even know of, and it's incredible about Peg because she was at your parents' church.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, and she wouldn't know you're just a patient and it's confidential and you know,
And then I just show up at church.
yeah, that's incredible. And she also ends up adopting two children of
Mm-hmm.
her own.
Yeah.
So it's just like you said, just position the right people and you
Mm-hmm.
know her to gift you. It's like, of course, it's like
Yeah.
you meant something. And so that is powerful, powerful,
Yeah.
powerful, powerful. So I just want to ask you about your you said in regards to your biological mother, she was really young, already had two kids by 17, so just not an adult yet to even raise a
Mm-hmm.
child and not having the resources, and having the wisdom and at the sacrifice, to be able to give up your child, even when you don't have the resources, that
Oh, very,
bond.
very selfless.
Yeah.
As I've grown up, I've watched so many peers and just other kids alike where like I've even heard kids say, "Oh, I wish I was adopted," and at first I'd be like, "No, you don't," but then like
Mm.
I ended up seeing where I would have grown up as an adult, and I'm like, "Oh, thank God I was adopted," you know. So like I kind of get it
Yeah.
too, where
Hmm.
it went from just undereducated, not like in a sense of like slow or something, but like lack of
Yeah.
resources, I think would be a better
Yeah.
term. You know,
Hmm.
and then with my medical conditions and like the lifestyles that they lived, like I said, well, they wouldn't know what I said before. Like I would have grown up in a godless family.
Hmm. Yeah. Yep.
So
Yeah. So being adopted also brought you to faith. I'm going to ask, do you know anything about your biological father?
my biological father, he passed away when I was 10, but
Okay.
from things I've been told, information from like my family, like he he I'm trying to think of like as much information as I got, what I've gathered was like on my darkest day I had acquired what my father was. Like
Okay.
with the drugs, the violence, the level of lost.
Okay.
I like he just he was engulfed in a systematic trap that I believe has been placed on a lot of people.
Hmm. Okay. So you didn't, well, you were adopted before you could really get to know him,
I
and
never knew
then,
him. So I never
and
knew
never
him.
knew him.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And so he had a lifestyle, you said, of drugs and violence, and it was a similar pattern that you later followed.
Yes.
So, yeah, I want to ask you, how did your adopted parents end up finding out about you, or why did they choose to adopt, and you guys getting connected?
I know that they adopted my brother. If I hope I don't butcher this. They adopted my older brother through Bethany Christian Adoption Agency,
Okay.
and there was also funny another lady at St. John's,
Hmm.
and I don't remember her name, but like I know who she was and where she would sit because she used
Hmm.
to like mark like it's weird that that wouldn't have been the right word, but like she used to like tell me about like other kids that needed to be adopted. So like I'm gonna assume it was
Yeah.
like the same thing. Like after Harrison got adopted, this lady worked for Bethany. Like it was just like word through the grapevine, like another baby needs a home,
Yeah.
and like my parents had been considering adopting another one. Harrison, my older brother, wanted a sister, but he ended up with me. And again, I don't fully understand it, but like just word of mouth.
Hmm.
And like that was in the early 90s because like I remember like even like when I was like getting a little older, me and Harrison both agreed like it'd be cool to have a little sister. And like there was a few times like I remember getting phone calls from this lady before. Like I grew up and like my cousin's a foster mom and like I've seen like the calls just come from different agencies sometimes. So like I'm not exactly sure, but like I would assume it would be like the same thing with like there's a baby that needs a forever home.
Yeah.
You kept saying you were looking this does this fit your whatever however that works, but
Yeah.
like word of mouth through St. John's landed me with my parents.
With their parents. Okay. So they'd already adopted before, and then
Yes.
you were their second child. I want to ask,
Yes.
what was it like growing up with them? And so there was two of you, both adopted. Did you, number one, did you know you were adopted since you were
Oh, you can't
raised
hide
so
that.
young?
I was adopted by white people, like full on white people. There was no hiding the question once the question
Yeah, yeah,
came of
yeah.
like where did I come from? Like first off, you're not gonna lie to me and say that I came from your belly because like
Yeah,
my friends got pictures of them in their mommy's bellies and like I was never in your belly, so like where did I come from?
right.
But then the other thing too, it's like even if you tried to say that like I was always like very racial aware, it would have been like what? Like, you lie to
Yes.
me? Like, to avoid all that, it was just always put out on the table. But
Yes. Yeah, I'm in a
I
similar boat.
also, yeah, yeah, definitely not as extreme, but it's also the same. But I also feel like with that, my adoptive father was also adopted, so like there could have been
Mm,
a there was a whole missed bond over that. But like it's kind of like how my older brother was, like my adopted dad, like even when I tried to ask, I guess it was my way to try and like figure out about like the void of like I don't belong, but like I can logically tell you I don't belong. So how do I get through this? Like I'd ask my dad, like, and he just didn't. He had zero interest in his biological family. But like that like I've learned in time, like that's like, yeah, he had his own issues, but like that's denial. That's certain things that man, it showed why he was the way he was in different aspects too. But like there was never, it just wasn't spoken about for him, nor was his childhood
yeah,
ever really spoken about. So like it was all this brick wall to like it took after my dad dying, and even with the realization of like the stuff at his funeral, like he's very mysterious before he met my mom. It's weird, but like
hmm,
because of that, like I was adopted by someone who like it seemed like you're not supposed to care where you came from and like the family you have is what matters. But like
hmm,
it caused some conflict, but it was it was interesting. Like growing up with them, I had a good life. We traveled, we did things. I have zero clue what it's like to be adopted by a bad family. Like I've read different horror stories. I've met kids that got put in the foster system or adopted by horrible people. Like I'm very blessed I did not get that experience. So like
yeah,
I had the what I would honestly say is like the most normal from statistic standpoints of like the only thing that could have been better was I could have been adopted by millionaires, you know?
hmm,
But like I had a loving home. I experienced
yeah,
more unconditional love and genuine connection than apparently most people experience in their actual biological home. Way more
yeah,
than I would have gotten in my biological family home. So
hmm,
like hindsight being 2020, like my childhood was awesome. Like I
good,
achieved things that people will never achieve. I had my second degree black belt due to being pushed. I played soccer and I had experiences like I got personally trained by the Philadelphia Kicks goalie like growing up, like like I had things that like people wouldn't have
hmm,
and I wouldn't have had, so like I got blessed with something that I overlooked.
yeah. So you said that your childhood's very, very good. The story of your adoption was open because your father was also adopted, your eldest brother was adopted. So it was nothing like taboo or hidden or not spoken
Hmm.
about. It was open and it sounds like celebrated. And your parents gave you well-rounded life and gave you lots of opportunities.
Hmm.
So I want to get into at what point did things start to change? Because you said you started to take on the pattern and the life trajectory of your biological father with the addictions, with the violence, but you were in a stable home that you were comfortable with, loved,
Oh, and grew up
and
in the
couldn't,
church too.
yeah,
Like I can't forget that. Like I can't tell my story without being like I grew up
mm,
in a church, like
yeah,
even though I tried to run from that for a long time, like that was like part of my life to the point where
hmm,
I was more shocked when I found out people didn't go to church
yeah,
than or didn't know who Jesus. Like I always knew it's like, oh, you're gonna have to tell people about Jesus, this and that, but like I didn't realize to like the severity of like this really isn't a normal
hmm,
thing to people. And like because of that I got hit with culture shock. Things the the defiant push of being like a preteen, exposure to the worst music. I've also, you brought up I'm a musician. I've learned through like music theory and a lot of other things, some things that end up getting tabooed over time, but like like the construction of music can corrupt
hmm,
people. Like I've actually used it multiple times since the first time we talked, and you said it was a quote that your dad said to you with bad company corrupts good character.
yeah,
Um, the choice of music that you listen to can corrupt your character as well. It's horrible company, and once once I was able to build my own CDs and I started to be rebellious, I started to fuel things, and I started to I started listening to music that fueled my anger, and
Hmm.
I was very angry and I was very hurt and I was very misunderstood. So I found outlets that, like, it started off being music, and then I just met people and people, places, and things. There was someone that ended up coming into youth group. I want to say like end of middle school. Yeah, definitely. It was end of middle school, like start of high school. Just the age group that I was integrated with. There was one person that I started hanging out with outside of church, and it wasn't even them. It was their neighbors. I knew when I was younger, and like they were bad kids. So like part of the connection was like, oh, you were my best friend when we were little. But then it was like oh, you guys are bad. I go to church. I could save you, and it was just a downward spiral, and
Okay.
it all just got out of hand eventually. But then
Yeah.
even with that, like I went like a year and a half of hanging out with these kids that smoked cigarettes and smoked weed and drank, and like I was sitting there, the straight edge, the and like eventually it just I got high, hated it, and then I got drunk one day and my sadness was validated, and it was over after
Mm.
that.
Okay. All
And
right.
then
So,
it was just a never ending thing. If I was with a whole bunch of broken kids and we were trying to figure out what can fill this void, and the answer was nothing, but we tried everything.
mm. So you're saying what kind of the turning point was the introduction of music, the things you were listening to, messages it's sending out, and I'm with you on that. Music affects the mind. And
Mm-hmm.
then you said your influence, the circle of friends you were around. And I even loved how you were explaining that because it starts off where you think, yeah, I'm not going to get pulled down. But I heard this was, I don't know if it was a pastor giving this illustration of how it's much harder to pull someone up and it's easier to pull them down.
That's why you don't
And
try and
it's
save someone that's drowning.
yeah, yeah. So when you get into those influences, it's much easier for them to pull you right into what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So you start joining in the things they're doing. You said you were trying to kind of deal with the sadness and a void that was in you.
Oh
So
yeah.
they may have been the influence, but what was the music and the drinking and the getting high
Those were
dealing
just
with?
those were just escapes. I had
Mm-hmm.
horrible abandonment issues.
Mm,
I lived in what I now call a false-based reality due to my own, well,
mm,
also due to like I was in therapy a lot. Like my parents tried, so like clearly it was evident at times that like I was sad. I would lash out different things, but like
mm,
it was also controlled because it could be leveled out with like church and positivity and things. So I also had masks with that. Like, no, we're like I was actually thinking about this the other just yesterday actually. Like I was cutting grass on the standing mower, and I was at one house, and like I was just kind of like reflecting on my life. I get into like this just nice little flow while I'm working, and like I was like looking at just like thinking, or I was thinking because my son needs a new therapist to try and finish out his trauma therapy. And like
mm-hmm.
I remember like there was only one therapist that like I didn't really bull crap. And then I was thinking about the times I did. And then I was like, oh wow, if I would have taken that seriously, like
Mm-hmm.
if I would have told the truth that day instead of lying to him, he understood. Like it was like one of those things because like I'm also trying to play the tape out of how to get my son through his whole trauma track. Like we got half of it through, and then like there was just a crazy conflict of interest with this therapist. But like even with my son, he's like I want to finish this. Like so like I'm just trying to make his life go the right way so he doesn't have to repeat over a decade of misery.
Yeah.
But no, it was abandonment issues,
Mm-hmm.
just just a whole bunch of lies I told myself, like, and the rejection of love. Like, I was harming myself. Like looking back on it, it was all me, you know.
Mm.
But like, it was this false narrative that I just decided was very true.
Okay. What was the narrative? So you said you felt abandoned and rejected. Was it because you were adopted and
Yeah,
you were given up?
um, it was like a different. It was levels to it. Like part of it's like on like not being able to understand. So I didn't as a child. I it was actually explained to me, right? Like
Okay.
my adopted mom was like, oh, it must be like because she never went through it, but she because I would go to her and be like, was I not loved? Like I'm pretty sure all adoptive kids ask that question at some point,
Yes.
like did I
Yep.
do something wrong? So then you have that conversation, right?
The
And when I
guilt
had that,
complex.
yeah, the guilt complex. But then like it was broken down to me like, oh no, like it's very selfless to say I can't do this, But like in my mind, it's like no, well, sorry, with my narrative, it was like I was told like this is a selfless act, but in my brain I'm like it's a cop out, like there was the
Mm-hmm.
secondary voice,
Mm-hmm.
and I think me and you talked about it before when like it was like you were giving me advice to make sure I wasn't going down the wrong path, but you were like you are aware that those voices aren't always what you think and they aren't you. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, 1,000%. Like I understand that now, but like back then I didn't.
Right.
So things that I thought were my own thoughts, those negative,
Mm-hmm.
self-demising, anti-Christal thoughts, pretty much like the fuel the ego, screw this type of
Mm-hmm.
thing, right? That to me, after a while, that felt good. It felt way better to feed my flesh than to feed my spirit,
Yeah.
and I got caught in it's I don't want to touch into all that because it could steer people wrong, but like it's just very very low, and it's not of the spirit is the only way I can put it, because like that's like one thing that
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing recently is like rephrasing my thoughts and like my mind like of spirit and not of spirit, because it makes everything so much easier to navigate.
Yes. Yeah. And that's powerful too. That's powerful too. Um, I wanted to say, so you're hang out with these friends, they're
Hmm.
introducing you to all these influences. What happens next after that? Your parents are trying to assist with the therapy. Um,
All hell broke loose. My brother,
okay.
my brother, my brother took a downward spiral with his own addiction. Own
Okay.
craziness happened, and like the focus, it's so weird. Like the focus went from like keeping me and like trying, like my parents were like working real hard to like reel back in my leash. Like it was evident that I was going to spiral,
Yeah.
but then my brother spiraled, and like they were like, oh, and like they just let go of my leash completely to go grab my brother. And by the time, like it's such a weird analogy, it'd be like by the time he went to go grab the leash, like the dog had ran away, and
Okay.
there was no explanation. Like I looked back on it as like it became like a spiritual war zone. Like there's nothing else
Mm,
that could like explain any of that. Like the more I've tried in time of times to like reflect on everything and like try and find like different reasonings for it was 1,000% just spiritual warfare. And I firmly believe with the amount of good work that my parents did, it was a lashback, and no one was prepared.
yeah. So your brother was also struggling, um, and
Yeah,
your
I
parent,
got he went from being fine to not fine real quick, and like
yeah.
it was so weird. Like even watching it, like I watched, I single handedly watched my brother pick some of the wrong friends, and it derailed everything. And like I don't believe in like saying like one person was the cause of all problems, but like I could pinpoint two kids that my brother started to hang out with that like he was naive about the life that they were living. And like I could even think back, like I was at Pizza Box, this old pizza place with my dad, my brother, and this one kid, and like I remember seeing his tattoo and I'm like, you're in a gang. And like
Mm,
he's like, no, 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 slips me kicks me under the table, slips me the middle finger, and I'm like, oh no. And like I told my dad and
yeah.
my brother, I'm like, he's in a gang, and they're like, no, his grandmom goes to church, and I'm like, he doesn't live with her, like he's
Listen.
here, like, and it just
Yeah.
all spiraled. But then from that,
Okay.
it just never stopped.
Yeah. So you were already even discerning about like uh
character of people too.
Oh,
So the
always.
same.
I was
Mm-hmm.
paranoid about, so that's like another thing too. I actually like kept that out, but like it actually got brought up the other day with a conversation I was having with Courtney, but like my abandonment issues ran super deep. And but like I was also hyper aware of it my whole life. But like I don't know if that like also goes through like the trauma of like I said, like I went from like birth to foster care to like hospitals and like being put under anesthetics and my heart stopping while like like while having like thinking I was dead during an operation, like like there was so much craziness that like happened. Like I by the time like I was like fully aware and like I was like aware of my thoughts and like a verbal child and everything, like I've always been on my own, for lack of a better terms, but like not in like some like depressive like I'm all alone, like no, like I was born and I was on my own. Like there was no nurturing
Yeah.
mother connection, there was no feeding of the bosom, there was no maybe I was laid on her chest when I was first born, so I got that first skin on skin contact, but by day two, maybe three
Yeah.
from discharge from the hospital, there was no biological anything. So
Yeah.
like it wasn't just like a fear, it was a first core memory survival skill. Like it's all I ever knew. So like I was aware of things that most people aren't aware of due to you're not aware of it. Like
Hmm.
it's a learned behavior that's not taught to most, you
Yeah.
know? Like there's
Hmm.
even like with people that are adopted, I know people that like they were with their biological family for X amount of years and like things happen, you know?
Yeah.
I never got that. Like there is apparently some like weird like attempts of reunification that like hindsight being 2020, I want to know what adult thought that was a good idea, but like it doesn't matter. Like I wouldn't have greenlit that. Like it should never have been a thing. But
Mm.
like it's just like the aloneness was my life, you know? It's kind of like
Hmm.
some people like find themselves in darkness. I was like pushed in it right off the gate. And like
Yeah.
I had this horrible victim mentality because of that. And it
Mm.
never helped either because like especially like once I would like get under the influence and tell my blues and my sad story, you can't like you can do nothing but want to coddle me, you know? So like I all that got fueled big time. Like go to a party with an adult with a bunch of kids, like one of those weird adults that would like let their kids party at the house, and now like cool Mama Dukes is sitting in the corner sobbing over my pity story. You know, like my sorrows were amplified to the point where it was like I have a ticket to escape, but like I didn't
Yeah.
like that's what it was, and it's like oh like we'll make you feel better with this, and it was weird. It was like the world believed that because I believed it, and
Mm.
like that there's no room for God in a place like that. So like I filled my void with everything but what could fill it.
Yeah. Mm. Thank you for like just one just being vulnerable, but sharing that picture that the drinking and all of that was trying to deal and heal those wounds that you had of abandonment, and that you felt justified to continue
Hmm.
because of what you'd been through. Do you think people around you were also justifying or okaying that behavior and not coming on as hard because they also because of this victim mentality or
I mean, I've learned through time with like how like the human psyche works that they could do nothing but condone it. You really couldn't until you hit a point where like it's like, yo, past all this, like I care about you, which
yeah.
I got from a lot of people over time. Like you can't you can't speak against something if I was very manipulative. So like
Mm,
if I got your mind thinking of what would you do if you were me, and then I also pull at your heartstrings, like I have you on the two levels that like
mm,
back then I wasn't aware of, but like those surpass the physical plane. So I have you emotionally tied in, and you agree with what I'm saying, so by default, you're going to become a yes man. And
Hmm.
like people would do it until they would. I had so many people care. I really did. And like I even had people that would like party with me. Then eventually it's like, yo, like we party, and like what you're doing is like it's bad, bro. But like then at that point, like you're not gonna stop me. So then I just cut you off. And like I had people try to help, but like eventually people see through it, and that's very true. To like, so answer your question, like I had people for it until they realized it was wrong, but then once they
Yeah.
realized it was wrong, like with my own patterns of like wanting to be like wanting to just because I had no explanations.
Hmm.
So I like the reality was like that like I believed for a long time that I would never meet my biological mother. I would never get my answers. So I built my own reality. And like a lot of that got shattered. I spent time in and out of jail, and I had this moment. I said one of my infamous foxhole prayers, but it wasn't the same. And it was in 2015. I was like, God, if you get me out of this pickle, like I'll do your work again. Like I struck a deal with God, and then I got out of jail. Like I went to court the next day. There was no evidence. It was very weird, like how everything happened. I actually only said the prayer because they didn't take me to court when they were supposed to, and I was told by the other people in jail that meant I was going to prison. And like it would have
Mm.
been justified for like the crimes that I was being withheld on. So I remember I was just sitting on the bunk, and I was just like, yo, like I'm gonna go to prison. Like then I was like, wait a minute, like they used to sing prayer like the songs, I think it was like who was it? Saul and someone else were in jail,
Yeah,
and
Silas.
they
Yeah.
yeah, Saul and Silas, and they sang, and then the so I was like, maybe I could do that. Like I started like in my brain, I started thinking of all the Christian songs I knew from church. It's really funny.
Wow.
And like I prayed, and it was a foxhole prayer, but then I got out, and I had some crazy stuff happen, like instantly. Like me and my friends saved this lady from a crazy DV situation. It was
Mm.
wild, like how it played out, but it ended up with my biological aunt picking me up from a train station, and I met my biological family. But like after that, I stopped doing drugs for quite some time too, because like I had closed my pity story. Like I had
Hmm.
enough facts about everything to where like I was like, oh, one, you guys all suck. So like I really pooped all over a blessing for 25 years because I was 25 at the time. I was like, and two, if I want to go and get high now and fill this void, like I'd have to go against what I was taught, which I found out
Yeah.
later on. That was like the cause and effect of neuroplasticity. So like once I learned their side, it was no longer a I have my own narrative. It's like this is what really happened, and like
Yeah.
it's also like exposure therapy. If you do like a trauma track with
Mhm.
someone,
I did
but
want to add to go over a couple of things that you had said
hmm,
actually. So you said, your life started going even worse. You got into prison and you prayed and you were released. You were
yeah,
worshiping. So I just want to say God heard you.
oh
Um,
definitely.
and so after that, you said you got picked up by your aunt. So you had at one point gotten reconnected with your biological family.
Oh, yeah, I kind of looked over that. So after my son was born and stuff, I was 19 when I had my son. Me and his mom got real bad on drugs together too. So my son was in a super toxic environment until he got taken away. But I actually ended up with all that. I left one night from when I had my apartment with my son and his mom, and I got arrested. Me and my friend got pulled over. It was ridiculous. We like looking back on it, like it's funny how God makes things work. But like we got pulled over by racist police officers in the middle of the night. Like the cops popped up out of
Mm.
nowhere. They
Oh
were
no.
they were they were hounding my one friend who's like super super dark skinned, and then like they were ignoring me in the passenger seat. And like I had realized that if things would have happened the way they were going, like we were going to go to jail for a really long time. So I looked at the one cop. I was like, "You never asked me my name, and I just want you to know I have 10 outstanding warrants." And I did. And they left
Mm.
my friend alone. They arrested me. They let him go home. So like things were averted. But then I was stuck in jail with 10 warrants, and like some of them were like it just wasn't it. But yeah, no, I did the prayer, said like I'll do your work, this and that, but like I need to not be able to do drugs. So that's also how I ended up with that. But when I lived with my son's mom on my 21st birthday, somewhere around there, I inherited money and I ended up going balls to the wall on like the plan was like to party for a month straight and then be an adult, and
Okay.
that was the plan. And like in that month-long party, a letter popped up from the adoption agency and it was my biological mom, and like I just in like this like horribly like drug induced space, like I just spiraled. Like
Hmm.
I did like the first initial phone call super high, and I got told everything I didn't want to be told, I guess is like the best way to put it. So it's like at first it was like, oh, I'm gonna finally get this chance to like have this talk that I've wanted to
Yeah.
have my whole life, and I'm going to get all
Hmm.
this closure, and she's going to say this, and this. It's like I wrote out all the answers I wanted on a whiteboard, and as I
Yes.
asked the questions, she said the opposite. I'm like, oh, no. Are you
Yeah.
sure? And like it just spun out after that. Then it was, oh, I want you to talk to your dad's sister. After I was like, where's my dad? And she's like, oh, he's dead. But you can talk to his sister. And like, I
Mm.
don't, I to this day, I can't tell you what it was that was said. Maybe again, it could have been the drugs, but like, there was just something that went off when I was talking to that lady on the phone, and
Mm.
it just it spun me out. Like I have no other words for it. Like the whole plans to get clean, everything. Like I look back, I remember I was told so many times like if we don't get it together, we're gonna lose our kid, we're gonna lose everything. I had a solid plan, and it just all went to just went out the window.
Yeah.
But like
So,
it was just I ended up reaching out to my aunt like desperately because like it was just a thing of like I need to get out of here, and I remembered her saying, oh, if I ever had the chance, I'd let you live on my couch. So I called her out. I called her up and I was like, yeah, remember how you told me if you ever had the chance? I was like, here's your
yes.
chance. Where do I have to go to get picked up? And she was
Yeah.
there.
Take up on that offer.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to ask you, Trey, about how you said so you got the letter and you got to meet your mother in person.
Yeah, I met her once. Like when I showed up out where I'm from, like she didn't even know I was going. Like when I met up with my aunt, like she kind of thought like we had. She came out to where I was living. We had dinner, or sorry, we had breakfasty lunch, brunch somewhere in there at this
Yeah.
diner that was around the corner. It was her, my older biological sister, and me. It was a nice time. We talked. Things were
Hmm.
said, but like it was good. And like that was it. I thought like we had some like texts after that, but then there was like an exchange of like I thought it was weird that she was posting pictures of my son, like, oh, look at my grandson, and like I was like, yo, hold up, like
Okay.
you bought me waffles, you're not grandma. And like
Okay.
that
Yeah.
like had caused a rift, and like I was cool with it being there, after that, because like it was like I had the realization of everything I wanted as a kid, like that it could never be fulfilled. I had a mom, like, so like I was cool with the initial thing, but then like I said, got out of jail on that foxhole prayer, and like God did not let me go back to that apartment with my son's mom, so like I was on my own.
Okay. Can I ask you what made
Yes.
you spiral after meeting your mom and aunt? So you said you had this image. Was it because what
Um,
you
the
imagined?
things. Oh, probably. I'm not fully
Um,
sure. Like my aunt just it was too much. I guess it went from like nothing and wondering to like honestly like looking back on it, my ego just could not survive,
Were
and
you
it was
disappointed about what you found out? Did it not match what you imagined or what you were told?
it it looking back on it, it's probably it didn't match my victim story. Like I said, my ego
Okay.
didn't know how to survive. Like I like it
Mm,
sounds so, but like it was really a thing of like this whole narrative. So like I firmly believe that like we all have like the ability to access the Holy Spirit in us, but like that's like working like with spirit. So when you do the things that are against spirit, like that's all ego driven stuff, right? So like the
Mm-hmm.
drugs, everything, the victim mentality, running off of fear and anxiety, that's all anti spirit. Like it's not positive. It's so that became my whole identity. Like all this negative
Okay.
stuff. So then when it's like I get told, oh no, like I chose this. I put you up for adoption out of unconditional love. Like, what do you mean?
Mm.
You did this because you hate me and I'm unworthy. No, I put you in a house where you're
Oh.
supposed like looking back on it, my ego was just ripped to shreds, and
Mm.
I I was still. I think by that point I was like what would be like definition of like an atheist to like the whatever top degree would be. You know, like there was no room for God in my life at that point. So then even then if you're telling me you caused all of my pain through unconditional love, like I gotta hurt myself. It sounds so
Oh,
silly to
okay.
say out loud, but like that's the only thing. Because like when you ask that, I can't pinpoint anything because like even that it was there was nothing bad. Like other than my aunt being over the top, but like I was also the son of her brother, her baby brother that she loved that died. So like a piece of him called her. Like I'd freak out too.
Yeah.
Like you you
Mm-hmm.
you thought you thought I was the reason I was gone because there like I said there was things that happened. Like story was that like I was under her care when I got rushed back to the hospital having another heart
Mm-hmm.
attack. So like to her like looking back, like that call to her was probably like the answered prayer of a century to her. Like I messed up so bad. Like where did this baby end up? All this stuff. Then it's oh you're back after my brother's dead. Like I get a second chance. But like
Yeah.
I was also
Mm-hmm.
like I said I was on drugs. I was young on drugs and hurt. So to me, her her way about it and like the smothering, which really was just like unhealed wound. Like like I've grown up a lot to
Mm-hmm.
see it from a different aspect, but like my misinterpretations, like again, it's all on me. Like is what caused even more downward. But like I truly also believe like it was I lost my ability to be the victim, but like I wasn't ready to accept it because I was still hurt. So I
Mm-hmm.
just continued to hurt myself because that's all I knew at that point.
Yeah. So I want to ask, um, after you revert back. Well, you weren't back. You said you were still um, on drugs, but you began
Mm-hmm.
to hurt yourself and I guess go harder.
Mm-hmm.
What helped you to come out of that? Actually, before I do that, I want to ask your father had died before you met him and you found that out.
Yeah.
How did you feel when you found that out? And did
Oh,
that
that
also affect your response to going a little harder?
yes. Actually, that was a major thing because I got two very conflicting stories from my biological mom and biological aunt on some things that
Mm-hmm.
happened, and both of them had spoken on my biological father in such ways where it wasn't even like they were describing the same person. And then like at that point, like any other time in my life, if I collected data like that from people, I would go talk to that person because it's like I heard you were okay, and I heard you're a monster, and I heard you're a saint. So like that's three different people. Who are you? I never got that. The who are you was to nothing. Like
Okay.
So then it was like I'm actually left with more questions than answers, and these are answers that I'll never have. So
Mm-hmm.
I actually think like I was able to use that as like a whole new fuel of like now I'll never know, so I'm forever damned.
Mm, yeah. I think that not knowing is always it's somehow sometimes we link it with like our identity. I have to know in order to move on, and the freedom comes when you can release it. So
Mm-hmm.
talk to us about how you got free from that. So you find out all these things that you didn't know. Now you found out your dad has passed. You can't get answers to this. You spiraled down again. What happens to help you get to where you are now?
Oh,
Um,
a lot. A lot
Mm-hmm.
happened. Well, after all that, I ended up, um, hold on, timeline. So like after I did that, I ended up going and telling my parents, went back home, said I had to go to Florida just because like I had no other options. Like, and it was still like this cycle I knew. Like I knew about being able to, and I wasn't even on drugs at that point. I had sobered up when I
Mm-hmm.
went out to meet my biological family, and then like after that, like I said, I hit this point where it's like, all right, now I have to make a choice. Like once I got like
Mm-hmm.
the answers I needed, it's like if I want to go back and do that crap, like I just gotta hate myself, you know. But like the victim role had been stripped from me, and that ran me to what I would call like a dry spell for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But I went down to Florida. I back then you could call a rehab and tell them that you're on drugs, and they'll buy you a plane ticket if you had a certain type of insurance. It's a PPO policy. I could actually speak on it because all this is well dead and gone, so I wouldn't be steering anyone wrong. Um, but I I utilized the system to get super cheap room and board as well as therapy in a 2-for-1 concoction, and I
Yeah.
went down there also with all the stuff that I had learned from being with my biological family for a month, and like my cousins and sisters and brothers, and getting all angles and stories and not just two people on a Facebook Messenger call. Right? I
Mm-hmm.
was able to like figure things out, like figure out that it seems more likely that my biological father died from an overdose on my 10th birthday. So therefore, if I want to continue that pattern, I could keep getting high, and then it'll damage my son the same way I was damaged. You know, then it's like, oh, I got to be the bigger
Yeah.
person. So like I started getting like
Mm-hmm.
some holes filled in where it's like, oh, like I get to choose if I want to be the bigger person. But like I still
Yeah.
was like going through different things. I had to there was a long process of things I had to get
Mm-hmm.
done to make it so my son was like away from his mom who was super toxic. And
Mm-hmm.
like a lot. Like I went through ups and downs. I ended up going, I relapsed at one point. I was dating someone that relapsed and died. And after a while, like, I hadn't done enough work on myself. So, like, well, actually, not even that. I had a new victim card. That's what it was. And I'm great at playing those. So I played a
And
new
what?
victim card. And that was a, I lost what was supposed to be the love of my life. I've lost so much in life,
Mm,
and like I was going through the ringer of like building solid ground for my son, but even with the whole thing, my son had gotten taken away from diapers because his mom was a hot mess express while I lived in Florida, which brought me back up to New Jersey. And like when I came back up, no one cared about me. Like I know that sounds like selfish and like childish, but like when I would go in and out of like the courts for like the placement of my son was already residing with my adoptive parents, you know, and like that was
mhm.
by far the most stable place to live. You know, like I didn't have it together. His mom was lying to the system while using, and like that's no place for a child to be. So like it got to a point where I was like, all right, um they actually told me, and I ended up in the same position that my biological mom did. And it became full circle where I was sitting in a mediation room in a courthouse, and I was told to think about the stability and longevity of my child over my own egotistical wants to be a father. You know, and that's
Mhm.
the unconditional love sacrifice of you're better there than with me. You know, so I was able to have that. And then but I had a few years flashed by during COVID and everything. I was in a full blown relapse. My dad died, and I ended up getting clean again a little bit after that due to legal repercussions and felony charges. But when I got clean, part of the agreement was I had to go to rehab, and I tried to like dance around that because because the way COVID worked, by the time I was actually sentenced, I had gotten clean. I had moved out of Camden. I was rebuilding my life. I was complying with probation, and I was nearing the end of probation. And my probation officer was kind of like, "Hey, don't forget, like you told the judge you would go to rehab." And I was like, "Hey, I'm over a year clean. Like, let's look past that. Like, make it make sense." And the way they made it make sense was You go to rehab or you go to prison. So I went to rehab.
Mm.
It's very sober, and when I was there, I actually, this is where all my change really happened. The I was in a rehab facility with over a year sober. um I had done the steps twice at that point, so like I already knew like where my shortcomings were, and I was able to sit down with like their medical people and like their different therapists there too. It wasn't just one. And I was like I asked around, I was like, who's actually like well rounded with working with grief? Who's well rounded with working with trauma? Like, my patterns show me that when certain people die, I'm more likely to go and use. How do I make it so I'm not a victim? Can I rewire my brain? Like I asked questions like
Mm.
that, and I got real answers, scientific answers that worked. And I was doing this trauma packet, and I learned about forgiveness, and I learned that my misunderstanding on forgiveness was keeping me sick. And like I learned how to fully forgive my biological parents. I learned how to forgive myself. I One of the biggest things I was able to forgive myself for was for ever turning my back on the church and God. And like once things like that happened, my life changed like to where they're at now. And even
Mm.
that was a process because that was in 2022 and it's
Hmm.
2025.
Okay. So I was just listening to the part about the triggering that happened with the losses. So you said one of the reasons you kind of kept relapsing was when you experienced a tragedy, you would kind of get back into the victim mentality
Hmm.
and then start using again. So you learn how to deal with grief through your rehab. And then you said the real breakthrough came with forgiveness.
Yes.
Forgiving yourself and others. What piece did that play that finally, it was like kind of like what broke you free? What role did
Um,
forgiveness play in that to finally keep you, get you out of that cycle of relapsing?
what role did? Well, it made me see things from a different angle and like
Mm-hmm.
the power of perception. Because like the things like one of the things I realized that like the it was like my view on things that like I couldn't forgive.
Mm-hmm.
It went against unconditional love. Because like unconditional love you can forgive, it doesn't mean you forget, but like it's I also learned that forgiveness was for my own benefit and not the benefit of others. Because like I was always under the impression that like if I forgive you I have to call you up and say, yeah, we're good, I forgive you, which then would open the door to get hurt again. But like that's not even it. What it really is take a step back, eliminate you from you, become the observer, look at the whole situation. It's kind of like how I break down now that my biological mom was 17 and undereducated with the resources, right? But that wasn't
Yeah.
it until I realized what it was like to be 19 and undereducated with the resources, right? And then be like, oh my gosh, she was 2 years younger, second kid, and I had all these medical conditions. Maybe she really did try to get me back, but then like the medical conditions, I could never juggle that,
Yeah.
so like being able to like look back where I've had to do that sacrifice. My son doesn't fully understand, but like we just were able to work on it through his own therapy recently, where he was able to voice that like he had like resentments against me, but like
Mm-hmm.
that's then like he feels so much better now. But like I explained to him, I said that's what forgiveness is, right? You have to
Yeah.
realize it, but you let go of that, like because like my resentments were what kept me sick, like
Yeah.
like I held on to
Mm.
the you gave me up, which became
Okay.
my I'm unlovable, so like once it was like, oh, I wasn't given up, I was rescued, I was strategically placed, right? There's no room to hate at that point because like you did do that out of love,
Mm.
because I did it
Yeah.
out of love,
Yeah.
you
That's
know.
powerful. So you, eh, that was like, that was helpful for me. You saw as because you weren't able to forgive, there was resentment towards your mother, biological mother, for giving you up. And because you see, because she gave you up, you then see yourself as unlovable. And it just opens the door for self hate and
Mm-hmm.
harm. And it's all
and it
fueled by this unforgiveness. And that's where the victim mentality plays in of
mhm
you were given up, you were abandoned.
mhm but
Wow.
in hindsight, it's you realize that you were not fit for this challenge. So
Mm,
you handed me off. It's kind of
yep.
like you have I know that they did it in like a Hey Arnold episode, but like have you ever like
Oh,
seen
hey,
or
Arnold.
like they showed it in a bunch of different shows growing up where like there's like the scenes of like stuff in like Asia or like Asian countries where like the American helicopters taking off and like mothers are like trying to hand their babies off, you know? It's like
Mm,
that's the most selfless thing ever, you know? Because like it's right then and there. It's the realization. Like I don't even know where you're going fully, but like that's got to be better than this, and like give my kid a better life, you know?
yeah.
Like when I
Yep.
was little, I used to look at that and like be like, those mothers are horrible. But then like as I got older, I realized like like El Salvador's a horrible place, and I would much rather know that my kid was in an American home being raised, hopefully better, but that's still better than he, like things like that,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
it's selfless, but like if you don't look at it from that way, it's quite
Yeah.
horrific.
Yes, yep. I hear you. And I feel like that's something that a lot of children that are given up, put into foster or given up for adoption go through. And I even went through, even though I was aware of my adoption, I went through that same process where there was two of us, and I have a little sister also, but she was older. I have an eldest sister, but she was married and all that. But it was me that my family chose to give up. And I was thinking, okay, do they not love me? Why did they give me up? Why didn't they keep me? And even though I had some understanding of the circumstances, it you still grapple with it. And that's where it's just
Mm-hmm.
like, and I'm now I can understand it's the enemy's voice to come against my identity, but I'm
Right.
believing it. And it's like, no, it was to give you a better life. And even when I went
Chosen,
back
and like
home,
it's like we were chosen, but
absolutely.
if you don't realize you're chosen, you feel like you're
Yes.
drafted.
Yeah, yeah. And you feel let down. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
no, they had no resources and they still struggle. And I do my best to help them now. And so now I understand, like you said, it was selfless. It's like, I can't even give you food to eat.
Right, right.
And
I had that same type of
they
thing
can
with my
help you.
son. I don't mean to
Mm,
cut you off. I had to explain that to my son actually recently. So like to like also just like put some light to like the viewers about like how bad my situation was, because I said like my son had it worse. So like if you hear my story now, it's like, oh, how could it be worse? Like my son lived with me and his mom during like the downward spiral after me meeting my,
mm,
or like the whole stuff with that. I blew through over $50,000 worth of drugs in under a year with my
oof.
son living through that, and it went from like
Wow.
we had money for everything, drugs were there, food was there, we had everything, every channel on cable, paid my rent for a whole year, like to the end where it's like I'm begging for money at a bus stop so I could go get diapers for my son. I'm getting
Mm,
there's three of us and we only have one hot dog left. So we're gonna cook this hot dog and feed it to my son, but we all have to sit at the table or else he won't eat. And now he's trying to feed us. He can't even speak and he
mm.
realizes that like his parents need to eat. Like that is so much worse than I was in foster care from day three being prayed over, you
Yeah.
know? So
Mm,
like even with that, it's like I've also full circle to like why being a father for Noah is so different. It's like I went through the worst, and I've had people before say, "Oh, don't say that," but like I 1000% failed as a parent. So like to get to do this and like not fail, it's such a blessing, and it's like my own reminder that like I can be my own testimony.
yeah. Absolutely. And I do want to say, you didn't fail, you fell. So you fell
Yes.
down and you got up and you're doing it better because your
Oh,
story's not
I'm a
over.
great dad now.
And yes, you are. Excellent. And it's only going to get better and better. And your legacy is just getting started. Like
Hmm.
that was the backstory. Now, where God's going to take you, I'm just like, oh my gosh. I don't know what he's going to do next, but it's going to be incredible. And your testimony is powerful. So, yes, you fell then, but now you're back up and it's a whole new Trey. It's a whole new
Oh yeah,
story. I'm so
1000%.
excited. I'm so excited. So I want to ask you final question on this topic is
Yes.
what would be a takeaway that people can glean from your story to help them through their journey of whether it's addiction, whether it's abandonment issues, what's something that you learned that you want to share with others to help them through their journey, their struggles?
Um, I could take two things. One, I would say lean on Christ, but lean on God, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could also lean on Christ, but definitely lean on God for the unconditional love. And if you have feelings of like abandonment or any of that, like we're in a day and age where like information is like at our fingertips, and like ask and educate yourself properly, because like my own misunderstanding kept me out for so long. Like it's selfishly selfless to forgive, and like people think
Yeah.
that it's just keeping an open door, and that's not it. It's actually quite the opposite. You get to close the door on anyone and then open the doors for yourself at the same time.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. All right. So I got a fun question for you
Yes.
before we close out. So you do music, music production, you play your instruments. So if you had to listen to one song all day on replay, what would it be?
Mm,
You could take
one
some time to
song.
think. There's a lot
Once
of good songs out there.
there are one song
Mm,
all
yeah.
day. I don't know. I don't know if it's just my mood right now, but
Uh-huh.
like I've definitely, or especially with after like my whole like forgiveness and like the I call it the gray times of like truly deciding if I wanted to like lean into the forgiveness or like just take back the victim role. I spent many days listening to the song "Deliver Me" by David Crowder Band on repeat.
Mm,
And like I don't know if it's just like the effects that they have on the guitars, or if it's just like the message. Like that song, I have chills now. That song's resonated with me since the first time Dave Falcone played it in the sanctuary at St. John's. When I heard it, like that song's just like
hmm.
it speaks. It like transcends my soul. Like I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah. Now I want to ask, do you sing also?
Yeah, yeah. With auto tune, I sound better, but not like T-Pain auto tune. I do sing, but like that's something that has been like part of my like process to like change who I was. Because like growing up
Hmm.
with music, I forgot to mention I like grew up doing private music lessons in a music academy and all this stuff. I was like very into like just playing the piano. I was like always like shy while like outgoing. So like I was like if I play the piano well, people will notice me, but like if I sing, they'll put that spotlight on me. And then so like I sing now, and like it helps accommodate a lot of things, but like it's like something more or less that like I've been working on to like get to the point where I'm like fully confident. It's also why I don't really like push out the music I make to everyone, because like it's one of my own complexes, but like I do, and I have to like
Okay.
I have to own that more. I think that was my own way of telling me like own it. Yes, you do sing.
Okay. Okay. And you're developing your craft. Okay. I was
Yeah.
gonna ask if you wanted to sing it, but I pulled up
Definitely
the
not.
so I
I'll
pulled
butcher
up
the
the
whole thing.
lyric, um, and it's actually the first part because he said it spoke to you, and I was just like, so it says, "Deliver me out of the sadness, deliver me from all of the madness, deliver me courage to guide me, deliver me your strength inside me." And that's like the first four lines of the
Mm-hmm.
song that came up. And just when you were saying how it resonated with you and it was just speaking through you through your time, it just, oh my gosh, it's just such a prophetic song because it just sounds like what you're crying out for God to do for you
Or
is to
yeah, or
deliver you from it.
even here later in the song, like it's like the bridge where he says,
Mm-hmm.
Jesus, Jesus, how I trust you, how I proved you over and over. Jesus, Jesus, precious Jesus, deliver me. Right? Like another thing too,
Amen.
like if like one thing that like I like when I said like I want to like fully full circle when I was like lean on God and like the unconditional love and like forgiveness, like that's like something like I've had to like remember because it's something that was like ingrained in me. Like if and through like studies of different things where all I've ever found is that like the absolute source is unconditional love. Like unconditional love is a driving point and force for creation, right? So like unconditional love and forgiveness go hand in hand, right? It doesn't mean that you become a punching bag for someone. It's just I forgive you, like, but like the act of forgiving is what creates the new. But like with
Yes.
the new, it's out with the old and with the new. You have to remember that as well.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. Well, I want to just thank you so much for sharing your story and just being so transparent, being vulnerable with it. You telling the story gives people freedom to share their own story, and the ups and downs tells people that no matter how many times they fall down, they can get back up. Your story is a testimony of victory and of deliverance, new beginnings, and I can't wait to see all else that you're going to do. It's going to be
Mm.
incredible. And I just want to thank you for just sharing it.
Thank you. Oh, also, just for anyone that ends up seeing this that is in recovery or wants to maybe get into recovery, my clean date is August 23rd of 2021. So this really works and it is a process. I didn't get like this overnight.
Amen. Very nice. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you for your
Thank
words of
you.
encouragement. I'll see you.
Yay. Thank you.
What an amazing and powerful testimony from Che that we got to hear today. I believe his story shows us that even in our darkest moments, God is there. He's ready to meet us right where we are at to deliver us from whatever we are dealing with. I want you to always remember that God loves you and he has chosen you to fulfill his good purpose. Until next time, be blessed.